everyone, and welcome back. Today I'm really excited to share with you my brand new charcoal portrait tutorial. And on this tutorial, we're going to be focusing on the development of the finished charcoal drawing. For this portrait, I set myself up with a few creative challenges. First of all, I wanted this composition to focus on who he was, his character and his presence, and to capture it authentically. So I stripped away anything that I didn't feel was necessary. I didn't want to focus on the background or the environment that he was in, nor the details of his clothing. I just really wanted to zoom in and focus on his head and his hands. Now this is simple in theory, but it did make the composition more demanding. I had to think about carefully how I was going to balance things out visually and at the same time create something that felt emotionally true. I also merged two different reference images, which added a bit of complexity, but it also gave me the freedom to ultimately create the image that I really wanted in the end. Now these are very common issues that we all come up against. Not all reference photos are going to give us exactly what we want. We want the convenience and the benefits of reference images, but we don't want to get caught in the trap of slavishly copying a photograph. Otherwise, just use the photograph. As artists, we want to interpret our reference material and give it our own spin. And using whatever medium that we're working with, develop our own unique style. And because I'm choosing to use charcoal in this instance, I want to experiment with a wide range of mark making. I want loose and expressive areas, and other parts I want them tightly rendered. This kind of variety keeps the drawing alive and far more interesting and gives it texture and energy. Once I've established my preliminary drawing, or block-in, I like to start soft and loose, using a pounce, which is a powdered charcoal in a small little pouch in order to pat or smear it onto the paper, or use a large brush and loose charcoal powder. This sets a value base in order to build the drawing on, and also it creates an energy to the drawing, giving it movement, large painterly strokes that act as a counterbalance to the much tighter rendering that will happen as the drawing develops. Once I have my loose value base in place, I then want to establish a full range of values from my darkest darks to my lightest lights. So the first thing I'll do is take some soft charcoal pencils and establish some dark darks, the shapes and areas that I really want to have depth to them and punch. And I use my soft crumbly charcoal pencils as well as some charcoal willow sticks. I can use my brush to blend those areas in, and I can make a variety of loose, sketchy lines. As I begin to develop finer, more detailed areas, I work with my harder carbon pencils with a very sharp tip. This allows me to build up very soft, subtle tonalities and very tightly rendered details. Each one of these series of marks and mark making, each one of them has its own tool, which I pull out and use according to what it is I'm trying to create at that point in the drawing, and I can rotate back and forth as I'm developing the drawing using all of my different tools. And I can make a variety of loose, sketchy lines. As I begin to develop finer, more detailed areas, I work with my harder carbon pencils with a very sharp tip. This allows me to build up very soft, subtle tonalities and very tightly rendered details. Each one of these series of marks and mark making, each one of them has its own tool, which I pull out and use according to what it is I'm trying to create at that point in the drawing, and I can rotate back and forth as I'm developing the drawing using all of my different tools. As the drawing develops, I also want to create a range of mark making. I want well-blended areas and some areas that are rough and sketchy, loose powdery backgrounds, and extremely well-developed details. I want that variety. So I will use highly sharpened pencils, broad smudgy strokes with my charcoal sticks, and I will also use my brushes to do a lot of blending and my little pounce that has a lot of charcoal powder in it in order to create dark, smoky areas. I start with broad strokes and large areas and then move into the specifics. And as I continue with the drawing, I can go back and revisit areas as more information goes down on the drawing that then affects the next series of marks that I make. It's a kind of a cyclical process. I get the base down, work up more details, work my way down through the drawing, and as it develops, I can then go back up into areas that I previously worked on in order to bump up my values, blend a little better, or simply make something a little more refined or detailed because I want it to pop out a little bit more. But it's all done in layers. The goal of this tutorial is to help you apply these ideas, the composition, the simplification, and the contrast, to your own personal work, your images, the people that you love, the people that you want to create portraits of, and your own unique ideas. I really encourage you to grab a reference image of your own and experiment with some of the techniques that you're seeing here. I'll be working on Stonehenge paper by Legion and working with a variety of charcoal tools, which I'll break down in more detail. Charcoal is one of my favorite mediums, and my students love it, and they have produced some outstanding images. It's affordable, it's very versatile, and it's a great way to grow your drawing skills. You can go soft and expressive or very bold and dramatic. It's really up to you. So if you're interested in developing your drawing skills, simply go to the Patreon link at the end of this video and find out how. I look forward to working with you, and we'll see you in the next video. And in the meantime, stay creative. This is your time to express yourself.